Hello and welcome to Pictorial Planet. My name's John Finch. Today we're going to be talking about scales. More specifically, do the cheap scales match up to the more expensive scales? I'm going to show you a little test I do just to make sure my scales are safe. It might be something you should do with your scales at home. Here are our two scales. On the left hand side we have the kitchen tour scales, which were bought from Amazon by my wife for her hobby. And on the right hand side we have my chemical scales, which are more scientific. And I bought these online in the United States actually. They were just over $100. So not very expensive really in the big scheme of things. These ones on the right, the scientific scale measures up to 200 grams in 0.1 accuracy, 0.1 gram accuracy. And the scale on the left measures, I think, up to 500 grams in 0.01 accuracy, which, you know, is debatable how accurate that really is. I'm never needing more than 0.1 personally, but very interesting. My wife bought these for her hobby. So let's switch them on and just see what the displays are like. I think you can see on the left hand side, very bright, very easy to read. On the right hand side, it's clear. It's a good scale. There's no doubt I like these scales. I use them all the time. So very interesting, the price difference. I've mentioned on the right, this one was around about $100, maybe a touch more than $100, which is about £100. On the left hand side, these were £15. Really, really reasonably priced. So what is the difference? Well, they work perfectly well. Now I've got a piece of cut-off negative here. Let's measure it on the scientific scale, and it gives us 0.2 of a gram. So very lightweight, a good example of when we're measuring very small amounts of a chemical. On the left hand side, let's pop it on there, 0.21, which is, for all intents and purposes, 0.2. So they're both measuring that small amount accurately. I think that's close enough. Very good indeed. So let's just take this off here. And of course it could be 0.21 on here, but it's not going to show it because it's only good to 1 decimal place, whereas the kitchen tour scales are good to 2 decimal places. So now I have a small lens from one of these cameras from the 70s. I'm going to pop that on there. And that's 14.1 grams on the scientific scale. And on the left hand side, let's pop it on there, 14.06. So yet again, they're just together, they're working well together. They're actually showing the same weight. So £15 compared to £100. Quite a difference in price, and yet I'm getting very similar readings. All right, so let's try something a little bit heavier. I've got a HDPE bottle here, which I have sodium hydroxide solution in, and that's 49.2 grams. Very good. Let's see what that's on the left-hand side. 49.25. So look at that. Scientific versus what they're classing as a kitchen scale, although I would say this is more of a hobby scale. But for £15, I'm getting really good readings. I'm happy with those. Of course, the left scale does measure more. So let's put something heavier on this right-hand side here. So there we have 123.3, 123.4. Again, I think at that range, at 123 grams, that is close enough. That's very close indeed. Good enough for your work in the darkroom. Let's increase the weight. Let's see this battery pack here. No, that's not much more, is it? What about this Pentax lens? 178.7, 178.8. Again, very close, close enough. You're not going to worry at the range of 170 grams, if you're measuring a chemical that heavy on your scales, then you're close enough here. It's fine. Frankly, I don't weigh that much on the scales because I can't get that much on. I usually, as you've seen in my other videos, use a piece of paper over the scale and I put in up to about 50 grams and decant that into the solution, and then another 50 into the solution, then another 50, and I do that rather than try to get or cram as much chemical as I can on the scales. I just find it just works out better for me to do it that way. So let's see, let's put something even heavier on. Okay, here we go, look at this. So I've got, so we've now run out, it's over 200 grams. It can't weigh this clock, but on the left hand side it's weighing it 320.24 grams. So that's an advantage in buying a scale that does register higher weights. But honestly, really, do we ever weigh something that much on the scales? No. In chemical scales, like I say, we're looking more around the 50 gram, 100 gram kind of amounts that we want to measure. It looks really good so far, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like this 15-pound scale is the one to buy for your darkroom? But I'm now going to show you a warning about these scales that I think is important for you to know. So this is what I want to demonstrate to you. So I've turned them off and I'm going to switch them back on so we can see that they have been started from fresh. So that's all very good. Now I'm going to put my light weight on it here, and it could be probably any weight, but I'll just demonstrate with this. So there's my 0.21, and now watch what happens when I bring a phone near it. Look at that. The phone is really throwing it out, and I'm not touching it. I'm just bringing the phone near it. And what's happening here is we're getting RF interference on the scales. Now this could be a phone, it could be some wiring behind the wall that's nearby, it could be a generator or anything at all that is creating some kind of RF signal, and it's going to throw those scales out, and potentially you'll mismeasure your chemistry. Let's see what the more expensive scales do. Let's see if they too are thrown out by the phone. Nothing at all. So you can see why you're paying your money. You're paying your money for a much more carefully built scale that has something that protects it against interference from equipment that's nearby, or wiring in the wall, or a plug socket, or something like that. So there you have it. Look at this, look. Just by putting my phone down here near it, I'm measuring half a gram. Well, it's all over the place, look at it. And of course, I don't know when this is happening. If this phone was in my pocket, I don't know if this is affecting my scale. So now you know. Cheap scales, expensive scales. The cheap scales might not be doing you justice. They might be throwing out your measurements. I hope you've liked this video. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and please thank my patrons. They're awesome. They bring you this channel every week. Thank you so much, you guys. I will see you all next week.